Hey everybody, what's up? Hearthstone Academy here, and today is an exciting day because today we get to talk about Shudderwock Shaman. So, Shudderwock Shaman was a deck that, as soon as the Witchwood expansion came out, exploded in popularity. Everybody made it, everybody played it. It was a great time until people started to realize it doesn't win all that often. So people kind of stopped playing it for a little bit, but then these nerfs hit about a week ago, and since then the deck has been seeing much more play. This was a deck that was not hurt by the nerfs whatsoever, while a lot of its biggest competitors were. So really that's just given it the space it needs to sort of climb up the ranks. And it's actually considered a tier 1 deck now according to the Tempo Storm meta snapshots. So that is pretty cool. So let's go over what this deck basically does. So you have probably played either with it or played against it at some point. And if you've lost to it, it feels really bad, but winning with it does feel really good. So let's go over how to do that. So, as you probably know, the crux of this deck is Shudderwock. It's a 9 cost minion, battle cries to repeat all other battle cries. So this is a pretty good card on its own, but when you build an entire deck around it, you can make it really, really crazy. So this deck is considered a combo deck, but it's kind of different from most combo decks. In a lot of combo decks, you get the pieces you need to pull off your combo, and then you play them all in one turn. Shudderwock Shaman is different in the sense that you've actually been playing your combo pieces throughout the game, sort of to get their battle cries in your battle cry bank, so to speak, so that when you play Shudderwock, you get all those battle cry effects. So let's go over a few of the really important parts to it. So there are really three supporting characters that really bring the whole thing together. So the first one is, let's start by talking about really four really important supporting characters. The first one is Murmuring Elemental. Your next battle cry triggers twice this turn, and what we basically want to do is we want to get this thing to cost 1. The way we do that is by using a Fire Plume Harbinger, and that will lower its cost to 1 if we have this in our hand. We have 2 of them because, not a bad card, just because we have so many Battlecry minions. But what we really get out of this, which is really nice, is it lets our Shudderwock Battlecry go off twice, if we play this before we play Shudderwock. So we basically get all of our Battlecries have gone off all game to all go off twice in a row. And there are really 2 important battle cries included in that are absolutely necessary. Everything else is sort of optional. So Saronite Chain Gang is one of them. Summon a copy of this minion. So when this battle cry goes off from Shudderwock, it does not summon a Saronite Chain Gang. It summons another Shudderwock because it executes the text as if the Shudderwock itself had that battle cry. So we have that combined with Grumble World Shaker, which returns all your minions to your hand and makes them cost 1. So what's going to end up happening is we're going to create a copy of our Shudderwock when we play it using Saronite Chain Gang, and then it's going to go back to our hand, and it's going to cost 1 because of Grumble World Shaker. Now, the order that this happens in is random, but if we play a Murmuring Elemental first, we're guaranteed, because each of those battle cries is going to go off twice, so we're going to be guaranteed to have at least 1 copy of Shudderwock go back to your hand and cost 1. So we can sort of repeat that same combo the next turn. So that is basically what it's going to look like. Sounds really complicated, but it's not. So then I guess this all sort of comes to the question of, alright, what's the point then? Why are we trying to get so many Shudderwocks on the board? Well, if playing a bunch of 1-cost 6/6 minions isn't enough, then we have Life Drinker, which is another really important battle cry. Deals 3 damage to the enemy hero, restores 3 health to ours. So if we play 1 or 2 of these before we play our Shudderwock, we're going to be doing around 12 damage, like 3 to 12 damage or so, depending on exactly what cards we've played by the time we play our Shudderwock. And that's going to happen every time we play a Shudderwock. So we deal 3 to 12 damage to the enemy, we heal ourselves for 3 to 12, and it really is just absolutely broken. If we can get the combo off, this Life Drinker is the card that actually ends up killing their hero. Um, so that's really the core of it. We have a few battle cries that sort of help us out. For example, we have Sandbinder, helps us draw into our combo pieces, and we have Glacial Shard that freezes an enemy. Freezing the enemies is important because we want to survive. This is a deck that sort of just tries really hard to survive until later on in the game, and having a card that freezes enemies is always helpful when it comes to that. And when and it's also going to be nice to have these in our Shudderwock Battlecry bank, because then after our first turn we play Shudderwock, we freeze stuff all over the board, and then that pretty much guarantees us another turn to play a few more Shudderwocks, and then basically guarantee a victory. So that is about it. Everything else is just card draw and survival tools. Zola the Gorgon we can use to return, or to basically add a copy of any minion to our hand. That's usually pretty useful. We can take any of our battle cries and sort of make them go off twice, which is nice. So really, that's about it. Finally, we have Hagatha, which is mostly there for survival, get that nice AoE effect, and of course, getting a spell every time we play a minion is also pretty cool. And we have Volcano, we have Healing Rain, really just things that are out there for our survival. So I think I've covered just about every card in this deck now, um, and that is about it. So let us get started with some games. So um, the exact deck list that you want to use is still kind of up in the air. The one that I have there is one that I've kind of tweaked a little bit. Different people like different deck lists. But which one you use ultimately comes down to personal preference and what the meta happens to be like at the rank that you're playing at. So, for example, I am not playing at a super high rank. I'm at like rank 16 right now, I think. So I have mind control tech because I'm going to be facing probably a fair amount of aggro, fair amount of decks that aim to have a pretty heavy board presence. Um, Not so many control decks. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so it might be a mirror matchup. If it is a mirror matchup, card draw is by far the most important thing. Um, so I'm going to actually put Volcano back because this will likely just be a race to draw the combo pieces. So I do have a deck tracker here, Hearthstone deck tracker. I recommend using a deck tracker with this deck because knowing which cards you've played already is really important, because that affects the behavior of your future cards. And you don't want to be left wondering, wait, did I already play Grumble this game? I don't know. I played Grumble, wait, was that last game? And really, you can end up losing a game because of it. So this is probably still probably still the same still Shudderwock deck that we're playing against. Sometimes they run Prince Keleseth. That I think is actually the one that Tempo Storm has up on their list now. Um, Instead of having Fire Plume Harbinger and Murmuring Elemental, they opt for Keleseth. Um, Doing it that way, you can't really get that double Shudderwock battle cry off the same way you can guarantee it with Murmuring Elemental. But it's still not a bad idea to do it that way. So there we coined out the Manatide Totem because he didn't have an easy way to kill it. So now he's kind of forced into this, and we're guaranteed that second draw off of it. So at this point, we can either play Farsight, or we can make a copy of our Manatide Totem. I think Farsight's going to be the move here, just because... Okay, that was actually a really nice draw off of Farsight. So this is a deck where you do have to keep an eye on your hand size. You you definitely don't want to overdraw here. If you mill one of your primary combo pieces, you basically lose. Um, it's really hard to win without Grumble. It's even harder to win without Shudderwock. So you want to always make sure you never put yourself in a position where you can overdraw. So right now, assuming he doesn't have a way to do 3 individual pieces of damage to this Acolyte, I think we're okay. Alright, yeah, so right now we're fine. As far as overdrawing goes. So we can, at this point, we can go ahead and play our own Life Drinker. Um, let's go ahead and trade this. I want to do it into the Keleseth in case he gets a healing totem. And so now our options are basically Farsight or Farsight into a Glacial Shard, or we can go for a Life Drinker. I think Life Drinker is a better move here, just because we wouldn't really get a whole lot of value out of Glacial Shard, and this way he's sort of forced to trade his Life Drinker into mine. So one thing with this deck is we try to minimize the number of sub 3 cost cards we have to try to get the most out of Farsight. If you ever try to use a Farsight and draw a 1 or 2 cost card, you're basically getting ripped off. So we just try hard to avoid that happening. So right now we are at 10 cards in our hand. So we want to be really careful about what we do here. I think doing Farsight's not a bad idea. And this isn't great, but playing this allows us to make some room in our hand. Because again, milling is not something you should ever consider when playing this deck. So right now we're looking for a Serenite Chain Gang, we're looking for a Grumble World Shaker, and we are looking for a Fire Plume Harbinger. So let's see, what do we want to do here? We could do a Murmuring and then have Zola copy the Murmuring, and we get back 2 copies of Murmuring into our hand. But then our hand would be back at 10 cards, and we'd be forced to like hex one of their Serenite Chain Gangs, I guess. Which isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's also definitely not the best use of a hex. I want to save that for a Grumble or a Shudderwock if we can. But it seems like there's not really much else we can do. Also, these are now golden Murmuring Elementals, thanks to Zola making a golden copy. Makes all the difference, really. If this card did not give you a golden copy, if it was just a regular old, not exciting copy, it's hard to know if anybody would really use it. So this is kind of scary because we still don't have a few of our combo pieces. Sure, we have Healing Rain, but we are getting to the point where we should really start looking hard for those. So we could do a Murmuring into this Sandbinder, But then we would probably be stuck with 10 cards in our hand. Because the Sandbinder would draw 2. If it drew a Glacial Shard, we'd be okay. But it probably won't. We don't want to count on it doing that, because then we could miss out on a very important draw. So let's go ahead and do this. Alright, maybe we could have done that. So now we have 3 mana left. We could do a Murmuring into Glacial Shard. That seems kind of wasteful, though. Healing Rain right now, we'd only get 7 healing off of it. Yeah, I can go ahead and do this. Healing Rain is such a strong card. Restores 12 health, random split among all friendly characters. So basically just your hero for the most part. And it's funny to compare this to Healing Touch, the 3-cost druid card that restores 8 health. This effect is just so much stronger. I don't know, it's fun sometimes to look at cards and just realize how much stronger they are than other cards. Come on, let's get a combo piece. There's a combo piece. Alright, now we are in business. So we have too many things in our hand. We really want to get rid of Manatide Totem. That's gonna, because right now we are ahead drawing. Playing Hagatha here wouldn't be awful. It would leave the Manatide Totem alive along with 3/1's Serenite Chain Gang. What are other options? We could Hex and then do a Serenite Chain Gang. But then if we do that, we lose the benefit of doing Murmuring Elemental and Serenite Chain Gang. So our 2 plays seem to be Murmuring into Serenite and Hero Power, or Hagatha. I'm gonna do this one because our hand is already having issues being too full. So I don't really want to compound it. By having Hagatha fill our hand every single time we play a minion with a spell. As all of our minions draw cards, most of our spells end up drawing cards for us. None of the ones in our hands, but just the ones in the deck. So we have 11 cards left in our deck. Very few of them would be bad draws right now. Other than Gluttonous Ooze, they'd all be pretty great. Alright, nice. So he attacked with the Manatide Totem, so now Hagatha can clear it. So we, I think, should just play Hagatha here. It'll leave just a 3/2 on the board for the enemy. Yeah, no real benefit to do anything with our minions. We already have a Murmuring in our hand, so we don't have to worry about bringing this one back or anything. Also still one in the deck. Alright, let's see how we are doing. So we have still drawn through more of our deck, which is a good sign. When you play against other Shudderwock Shamans, the winner's usually whoever can draw through their deck the fastest. It's unfortunate our 4 board clears, so the 2 Lightning Storms and 2 Volcanoes are both still in the deck. There's one of them. So I think right now it would be okay to to go ahead and do a Serenite Chain Gang and along with a few of our draw engines. So this is kind of tricky now, isn't it? Because you don't want to overdraw, and we're at 9 cards. So I think we almost have to. Well, we can do Manatide Totem, and then hope we get something to complain. If not, we can always just do a Healing Rain to drop a card. We're at 9. We're gonna be at 10 by the time we're done drawing. So we could either do a Lightning Bolt or a Healing Rain. We have 2 Healing Rains. Let's just use one now. There's our Grumble. There he is. I don't know how Grumble exists as a card. It has such an absurdly strong effect. Just outside of this deck, it's so ridiculously strong when you have a board. For 6 cost 7/7, those are pretty good stats for what you pay for it. We got Boulder Fist Ogre, like the prototype vanilla 6-drop. You get a 6/7, so you get slightly better stats than that. And its effect is just crazy. It's just completely insane. I don't know what Blizzard was thinking when they printed this, but it's one of those cards that, when you read its effect, seems completely broken, but yet you don't see it totally dominating the meta outside of this deck. So, props to Blizzard. There. So now we are really waiting. Let's see, we're full. We're at 10 cards, so we want to play at least. So we could do a Grumble now.
A path dimly lit.
Could do a Grumble and a Tidal Surge. I think that's not bad. And then this isn't going to activate, and then we can do this and live another turn. So right now we are really just waiting patiently for Fire Plume Harbinger. Once we get that, we are good to go. We can do the Fire Plume Harbinger, and then on the next turn we can do Murmuring into Shudderwock, and we have everything else saved up, and we are ready to completely destroy them. Yeah, this is kind of an interesting matchup because of the fact that we are playing against another deck that is also sort of just stalling and drawing, so we haven't been able to get too much value out of our board clears. Wow, so he's going to get a lot of draws off that. He's got 4 cards drawn. He's going to... No, he's going to barely avoid overdrawing. Alright, so we can go ahead and play the Life Drinker, see what we get out of Hagatha. And this is pretty good right now. Or should we do it on the Manatide Totem? Because we don't really want to be stuck with more cards. 5 cost 4/5. I think
You must decide.
let's see. It's not bad. So we're back down to 8 cards. Normally staying under 10 cards is not as horrible of a challenge. It just happens to be um, that in this specific case, we are playing against another deck that is not really trying to do anything, so our board clears haven't had a whole lot of use. Our Healing Rain hasn't really been too useful, our Hexes haven't been useful. So our hand's just kind of clogged up by all these cards, and everything else sort of just draws for you. And we have been wanting to play those because drawing's not that useful for us when we are down by this much. But regardless, I think we I think we almost definitely want to play Acolyte now. So there's Gluttonous Ooze. We could play Volcano now, and we would draw 3 cards. We'd overdraw though, we don't want that. So let's focus on, for now, just getting our hand down. That's a misplay, should have played him first. So we're at 7 cards now, so if he has a Volcano, he could do some damage. He still has only played 1 Volcano, so he could do it now. So that does lead us to overdraw by 1. But luckily we did draw into our Fire Plume Harbinger, which was our last combo piece. So we are good to go. Looks like he still has not drawn into the combo. So we are a little bit ahead. So right now we could do Fire Plume Harbinger, and then that sets us up to, on our next turn, do Murmuring into Shudderwock. I want to make sure not to play anything that overloads us this turn, because that's a 10 mana turn. So let's go ahead and go forward with it. So we're probably going to play this and then do, I guess, a Hex and a Rockbiter weapon. So yeah, the order won't really matter. Then we can Hex this guy, and might as well do this. Yeah, so hexing the Manatide Totem really important in this matchup, just because that is the main draw engine for this deck, and this deck's win condition is basically draw more. So even if you're not playing as this deck, if you're playing against it, whenever you see a Manatide Totem come out, you probably already know this, but you want that Manatide Totem gone. You want it to disappear from the face of the earth. Yeah. So he knows what's coming. It's kind of tempting to Volcano here just to get into overdraw. And we have Mind Control Tech, which would also get us a lot of value here, but gotta go for the combo. So we play Murmuring first, and then we play... Oh, we didn't get the fun part. We did not even get to play the fun part. Well, he already knew what was coming. He plays the deck himself. So there is game number 1. As usual, we will do 2 games. Hopefully this next one will not be against another Shudderwock Shaman, so we can actually see the deck in use versus an actual deck, like the kind that you'd find in most games. Shudderwock Shaman is very weird deck to play as and to play against. Alright. So, going up against a Paladin is going to be a little bit more normal. Gluttonous Ooze, we probably want to keep, regardless of which Paladin it is, a weapon's going to show up at some point. I'm going to You know, this is not a bad start. 'Cause we have Life Drinker. I think maybe if we put back anything, it should be the Life Drinker. Because this matchup's going to be all about controlling the board at first. Gluttonous Ooze helps us take down weapons, and a 3-cost 3/3 is okay. And Healing Rain gives us just enough time that gives us like an extra turn or two to draw into what we need, so it's always good to keep around. We're playing as an odd paladin. So Volcano is gonna probably be something we really want to draw into early in this matchup. So Volcano just absolutely destroys what they're trying to do. So we have Lightning Storm. Whether we should play it now is kind of an interesting question. If we wait a turn, we'll probably have 2 more Silverhand recruits out, and he'll have only done 3 more damage to me. So I think holding on to Lightning Storm is okay to do. So for now, we could do Manatide Totem, basically cycle the card. The other option is to do Foresight. Let's do Farsight. Ooh, yes, a 3-cost Grumble. That's nice. So that sets us up for some big potential swing turns where we can play a bunch of minions, grumble them back to our hands, and then play them again. So Serenite Chain Gang comes to mind as a great card to take advantage of this with. Do Serenite Chain Gang into grumble, and then play back those 2 Serenite Chain Gangs, turn them into 4, all in one turn. And then we have 4 2/3 taunts and a 7/7 on the board. And we've added 3 Serenite Chain Gang battle cries to our battle cry bank, along with, of course, our grumble battle cry. So going into turn 4, nothing too scary he can do. I think playing Life Drinker here and holding out 1 more turn before we play Lightning Storm or even Volcano possibly is okay to do. With our AoEs in this matchup, we're always going to get a ton of value out of them, and usually this matchup will be decided by how good you can be with those AoEs, about figuring out the exact right point to activate them. So he's just going face. Looks like we're gonna be able to get some pretty good value here. So if we look at Lightning Storm would kill everything other than the Argent Squire, which we could then trade Life Drinker into, or we can do Volcano, which would clear everything. So if we do Lightning Storm, they both have Overload 2. If we do Lightning Storm, we have 2 extra mana this turn. Can't really do a whole lot other than give us a totem. But it's not the worst thing in the world. Yeah, let's do it with Lightning Storm. The main reason to consider Volcano there is the fact that we have 2 of them in our hand. So if we played a Volcano, we would be able to, next time we need an AoE, choose between a Volcano and the Lightning Storm based on this situation. But in that case, Lightning Storm gave us the same impact for 2 less mana. So yeah, he has the resources here to kill the Manatide Totem. That's fine if he opts to do that. So Volcano She has 16 health on the board, so Volcano would be just short of what we need to clear. So we could do... I mean, yeah, the Volcano's not perfect, but it's really the best we can do right now. Don't really have anything else. If we did Healing Rain, we wouldn't really have a good follow-up to that. So I think Volcano and then Hero Power is our best move. Yeah, Volcano is one of the very few spells you want to play before Hero Powering, because a Spell Power Totem not going to help you out too much, adding an extra target. So we are going to be looking at 6 mana our next turn. So I'm okay doing Ooze and then Healing Rain. Could have also done Ooze into Zola the Gorgon, but I mean, I don't know how greedy you want to get with that. And you could always just avoid playing weapons. That's not a good one. That's not fun. So luckily we do have that other Volcano we can play. Might have to do it here. If we trade here, then there's 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 health on the board, so we could clear with Volcano. Now he's with 4 mana, which I mean, we could do a Glacial Shard to face and then copy the Glacial Shard back to our hand. It's probably not a bad idea. Just to put something out there on the board. So let's have some fun here with Grumble. So that gets us a Murmuring for 1 now. So that's really nice. We also have double Glacial Shard now. Really doing great things for our Battlecry bank. We are unfortunately sort of short on AoEs. We can make our elementals free at this point. Seems pretty nice. It's annoying we can't really do anything about that, about the 7-1. I mean, we could freeze it again, which isn't an awful idea. So we probably, I mean, right now our focus is on surviving. Yeah, it's unfortunate we haven't drawn any of our, um, any of, or we haven't drawn Hagatha yet. We haven't drawn Serenite Chain Gang yet. Luckily, I think, or nah, I think he's gonna be able to get away without, by, with clearing our board, and I might have to hex the, um, Baku. There's a Agatha. Oof. Isn't it nice when everything just works out sometimes? That was a misplay. Was it? I don't know. Should I have hero powered first? Guess wouldn't have mattered. And then we could do a Murmuring into Life Drinker next turn to get 6 health back. Hopefully we can draw into Serenite Chain Gang, or even a Mind Control tech at this point. Or an Acolyte. Really, there aren't too many bad things we can draw into now. There's our Serenite. There's our beautiful Serenite Chain Gang. Oh, it just gets better and better. Alright. So now our options are Life Drinker or Tidal Surge. Let's go ahead and do Life Drinker. This Tidal Surge doesn't really have many great targets right now. I guess we technically could do Corridor Creeper here, but that wouldn't be awesome. Freeze a minion and deal 3 damage to adjacent ones. Alright. It's not the worst card in the world. Let's see what happens here. Um, okay. Alright. This isn't bad. So we have Zap, we have we could do either Avalanche or Tidal Surge, and then we have Feral Spirit. I think we want to do this. So right now we really want to make sure to keep them away from having a board. So we still have a Lightning Storm to draw into. That's really our last AoE. It's unfortunate that we haven't really drawn into our Sandbinder or Acolytes. But it's the name of the game. I think of the best way to clear this. I think we're gonna have to Tidal Surge 3-1, right? Because then each of these well, Vine Cleaver can just take out whatever we leave anyway, regardless of how much health it's at. So maybe we should Tidal Surge this, or should we even use? Yeah, we have to use Tidal Surge. What else are we gonna use our mana on this turn?
I must decide.
Yeah, it feels weird trading a 2/1 Divine Shield into a Silverhand Recruit, but really this game's gonna come down to can we survive until we get our combo. This deck doesn't really have the tools to win outside of that Shudderwock combo. It doesn't have damage, really, outside of that. It's all focused on clearing the board and survival. Alright, so still not great. This is really not great. I mean, could Healing Rain. We almost have to Healing Rain here. Could Healing Rain, then zap one of these. I could. Yeah. I mean, that's what we gotta do.
I must decide.
Yeah, and then let's zap one of these. Be really nice if we could draw into our Shudderwock now. That's the only piece we're missing. We've already played one of our Serenite Chain Gangs. We have our low cost Murmuring Elemental. We've played Grumble. Really at this point, we are just waiting for Shudderwock to come through. Oh, there's a Farsight. There's our Shudderwock, and luckily we have a zero cost Murmuring Elemental, so this is actually going to work, even with our overloaded Mana Crystal. Now we actually get to watch this whole thing play out, which is nice. And that is how you do it. So this deck plays long games. This has been a really long video, just 2 games. But I mean, it's not a fast deck. It's a deck if you want to climb really fast, if you just want to get like 3 to 5 minute games over with going as fast as you can. This is not the deck for that. If you want to play long games, if you want to stay alive as long as possible, then this is a fun deck to do that with. So have fun with it, experiment with it. The list I used is not the list everybody uses. There is still lots of room for experimentation, but it's really a fun deck. Everybody should try it at least once if you have the dust for it. So, alright, this is Hearthstone Academy. Thanks for watching.